Polyp works here. So I've been hearing some murmurs, I've been hearing some rumblings, and they kind of unsettle me. What I've been hearing is that an alternative to Bonney's sort of role, other than joining the Straw Hats, is that she would possibly join the Revolutionary Army, and her ability to control the pacifistas would give them a great boost in power. I take great umbrage with this because those people who say that she would join the Revolutionary Army, I feel like those people haven't really understood what the Kuma flashback means. Let me remind you. In Kuma's flashback, in the way it's set up in the narrative, Bonney is viewing all of Kuma's life in real time thanks to the abilities of the pawpaw fruit. That means all of what we've seen Kuma go through in the narrative and beyond, she now knows. So not only is she getting a replay of Kuma's life, she's also getting a replay of her own life through Kuma's eyes in some respects, right? Here's the interesting thing about all of that. There has been one central factor that has pushed Kuma and in turn has pushed Bonney through their individual adventures, and that being Nika. So let me contextualize things this way. Since she was very young, her father has instilled in her the values of this deity called Nika, as they were instilled in him by his father Clap when he was young, right? So in both of their lives, we have this figure being a driving force in shaping who they are today, correct? Okay, so from Bonney's perspective, she is seeing that if there was anybody in the world who embodies the tenets of Nika, that person most likely is Monkey D. Luffy, from what we see Kuma go through and his observations of Luffy throughout the entirety of the narrative, right? So not only that, but then she gets to see that all the rumors that her father told her, all the things that she knows about Nika, come forth and are confirmed verbatim that Luffy in Gear 5th is Nika. Do you know how that must feel to somebody in which you yourself are going out adventuring, looking for your father, and hoping that you can tell him that you met Nika on your travels to surprise him, to tell your father that you met the deity that he told you so many stories about and whom he cherishes so much? Do you realize how impactful that must be to come across this weird guy who turns out to be that deity, that the fantasy that you were starting to doubt is actually real, with no contest, is actually a thing? So I say all that to say, why wouldn't she join the Straw Hats? Why wouldn't she be a sister for Nika? Or I guess in terms of pirate crews, an apprentice under Luffy. Same difference, but you know, whatever. But I say all that to say, it's weird to then say she would throw all of this away, this impossible event that has happened in her life. She would throw all that away to join the Revolutionary Army. I mean, in terms of just the placement of what the organization is in Kuma's life, it's a very important thing in his life, but it pales in comparison to Nika, the thing that kept him going and shaped his personality. You kind of see what I'm getting at here. On top of that, people have said things like, oh, Bonney having control over the various pacifistas is a problem for the narrative if she were to join Luffy and the crew. I say that to say, brother, the pacifistas have not been a threat since the time skip started. They are a measuring stick to show how the crew has developed over the 2-year time skip, because a pacifista is decked immediately in the Return to Sabaody arc. and then another one is decked by Zoro and Sanji. The pacifistas are not a threat. If anything, it sort of consolidates the Straw Hat crew as a Yonko crew, because now they have a leading member, an officer that can shut down one of the superpowers of the Marines completely without contest. That's something that the other Yonko crews just don't have, despite all their powers. Someone in their ranks who can shut down a super weapon of the Marines with no effort. That alone is something to note. Another thing, people have said it is weird to have a supernova in the Straw Hats. Let me regale you with a tale. It's 2007, right? An admin on the Arlong Park message boards, and I'm sorry I don't have any pictures to show, but a admin on the Arlong Park message boards tells his community that he thinks a warlord will join the Straw Hat Pirates someday. Now, from that point up until, say, 2011, when I started to become active on the internet and active in various forum communities and such, I thought this was ridiculous. But the community sort of formed around this idea and held it up. This then shifted to the idea of Jinbei joining. I still think that has been a bad play in the narrative. However, Jinbei, being a warlord, being a more untouchable member in the One Piece world, because warlords have a lot of pull and they're one of the they were one of the axis of powers for the world government. They're held and always have been held in higher regard than the supernova, right? So, despite everything, Jinbei has joined. Despite him being one of those high-ranking members in the One Piece world, he has now become a main character. Not only that, he had a crew. He has one of the longest resumes in One Piece and has no real reason to join, but we'll talk about that in a full video about him. But despite all of that, he is a main character. Now, turn things over to Bonney. Her crew has less development. The supernovas, even though they are of the worst generation, still don't have as much of an impact on the story at large than the warlords have had. As simple as that. Mihawk, Crocodile, Buggy, Teach, all these people held the warlord position, and all of them have been major factors in the narrative. Doflamingo, everybody. Warlords have been a big deal. I don't think I need to stress that. Supernova have caused a fire here, an upset there. The only supernova who has been of note are Luffy and Zoro. It's just been Luffy and Zoro who have been like the main focus of this sort of little group of people who have been talked about. Oh, and I forgot to mention Teach. Teach is also, well, Teach is in everything. Teach is also part of the worst generation, and he is of note. You kind of get what I mean. So, I say that to say, Bonney, and being a member of the worst generation, has had little engagement that would make her a threat to the world, unlike Jinbei, who has accolades upon accolades. So I don't really see a problem in her joining the crew. And then just based on what I just went on about, she has more reason to join Luffy because of what she found out about Luffy. She found out that he is the deity that she was searching for. So him being that makes him, in a weird way, a idol in her life of what shaped her life from early childhood up to now. So it makes no sense for her to join any other organization other than the Straw Hats. And thank you. That has been my Bonney talk.